Emerald! Rangers!
The Sega Saturn is well known for not having a mainline Sonic title. The original plan was, while Sonic Team was working on Nights into Dreams, Sega Technical Institute would be working on what was planned to be the main Sonic title for the Saturn, Sonic X-treme. Development lasted from 1994 to 1996. Sadly, X-treme was cancelled after a very rough development and running out of time. Prototypes have been preserved. Sonic X-treme was a project that did not start off as a 3D game or even a Saturn game. A new side-scroller to follow up Sonic & Knuckles for the Genesis was in development for the Sega Genesis/Mega Drive. One pitch for this is known as Sonic 16, meant to be a tie-in/spin-off with the SatAM cartoon, but this was rejected by Sega executives. The project was quickly ordered to be moved to the 32X in order to try and help its sales. This 32X project is known online as Sonic Mars due to the 32X's codename being Mars. Sadly, this would be without help from Yuji Naka, Sonic Team, or any of their original staff that worked on Sonic because they all returned to Japan to work on Nights into Dreams. However, this was not in development for long because after the 32X was discontinued, the project was again ordered to be moved to the next cartridge-based console. What console is that? I don't know, and neither did the team as they were not given any development kit or technical information about this mystery system, so they continued developing with the 32X in mind. Eventually, the Sega Saturn entered the spotlight and development was ordered to be shifted to it, which was all new unfamiliar hardware that was reportedly very hard to code for. To make things more difficult, the team lead who designed Sonic Mars, Michael Kosaka, left Sega in mid-1995 and had no immediate replacement. They also needed to develop a PC port at the same time. On top of all that, a Sonic movie deal with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer had been made for holiday 1996, and Sega decided Sonic X-treme should be a tie-in and must be released alongside it holiday 1996. Development began without any real direction or vision. Two teams were formed. The main game was being developed by Team 1, led by programmer Ofer Allen and Kosaka's replacement Chris Sen, with free roaming in mind. A second team, led by Christina Coffin, focused on boss battles. Originally, Allen and Sen began developing the Windows 1995 version, with the intent of porting it to the Saturn later. While development went well, porting faced many obstacles. Eventually, the PC port ended up being outsourced to Point of View Parallel in a split office. Both teams developed two separate engines for their portions of the game. However, when Sega executives paid a visit and were shown presentations, they were not happy with the project and ordered the game to be scrapped and redone with Coffin's boss engine for the whole game. With no extended deadline and low morale, Bernie Stoller, president of Sega of America at the time, asked if there was any way he could help. Chris Sen asked if they could use the Nights into Dreams engine, and they got it. Production sped up briefly with the help of the Nights engine. Unfortunately, in a short amount of time, Yuji Naka protested, threatening to quit Sega if they did not stop using the Nights into Dreams engine that his team created. So, back to square one. The team worked around the clock, determined and desperate to finish the game, even managing to get a demo for E3 of 1996. This was thanks to Christina Coffin's boss engine being further in development due to it not using the Nights engine. Now, only 9 months away from the holiday deadline, the team worked desperately to finish the game. During the time, Sonic's pre-rendered sprite from the game was replaced with a 3D model. This change was called Project Condor. Both Coffin and Sen moved out of their apartments and into their offices so they could work around the clock. Coffin caught bad pneumonia and had to be pulled out. Sen lost 25 pounds and was hospitalized from illness due to the high work hours, and doctors told him he would have 6 months to live. So continuing to work at that rate was also a no-go. With two unreplaceable leads taken out, the game became a lost cause and was delayed and finally cancelled in 1997. As for the movie, it also got cancelled. It had a conception that Sega reportedly loved, and even a working title, Sonic the Hedgehog and the Wonders of the World. But MGM backed out of the deal. Sega tried again with it, pitched the film to DreamWorks, who was still young at the time, but they weren't interested. Coincidentally, there were two Sonic OVAs in 1996 that later got made into a movie in 99, but that's an unrelated story. And that was a very abridged version of the development, told by me. There's a lot more to the full story, I'll share some links to videos if you want to know more. While the game had many phases of development, and some of it is still locked away, there are 3 prototype builds out there in the public, as of recording this. POV build from July 14, 1996. It takes place on a green hill-like zone with grass, waterfalls, and platforms. Not only can rings be collected, but baddies can also be squashed, or they can also get you. It's quite easy to get stuck in some of the lower parts of the zone due to Sonic not being able to jump that high. The stage hazards won't hurt you either. If you go all the way to the right, there's a Sonic head just staring at you. The movement isn't linear. Not only can Sonic move left and right, he can also move forward and back. There's a debug feature where you can move a ring around if you want on the map. Doesn't do anything other than that. The July 18th, 1996 build has gameplay. Not much of it, but enough to show off a concept of what it wants to be. This build takes place on a green hill filled zone where all you can do is run from one end to the other while collecting rings and launching yourself through these clear boxes. The spin dash is there too if you want to get around faster. The classic Sonic stats are shown on screen on the top left corner, although they are just purely there for show. Even the score goes up automatically and the timer resets once it has gone past 5 minutes. This build reportedly is what became of the brief time with the Nights into Dreams engine. The third build I played is called V40 build. Biggest feature of this prototype is showing off the fisheye lens in the non-boss levels. This one takes place in a little blue blocky room. There's nothing much here. Rings, enemies, and some platforms to jump on. The rings and baddies aren't interactable and are just here for show. They never got programmed. The platforms are a little awkward to jump around, but they are explorable thanks to Sonic having a moon jump. Running off to the right of the level will have Sonic run into the darkness. There's also a flash button that makes everything dark. No idea why this is needed, but it's there. Now let's jump from X-treme to Z-treme. Why? Sorry, no Y-stream here. Only the fan-made recreation called Sonic Z-treme. As of recording this, there's a demo consisting of 4 levels, each with a different theme. You've got a grassy level, a hot and spicy ice level, a cool fire level, and Eggman's base. There are a few modifiers to be found in the options. The frame rate can be changed between 30, 60, and 120. A fish islands can be applied, but it really doesn't look much different when it's turned on or off. And you can change the character model. There's Sonic, a second Sonic that has a metallic look, and a Badnik that looks like a rocket. Going back to what was released. In place of the canceled title, Sega rushed to fill the holiday release, and they ended up releasing a port of the Sega Genesis title, Sonic 3D Blast, known as Sonic 3D Flicky's Island in some parts of the world. This title has you play as Sonic with isometric graphics. There are 7 zones, each with 3 acts, a boss fight, and the goal is to find the 6 Flicky birds, either by defeating enemies or destroying containers. Once 6 are obtained, they are used on a big ring which either unlocks the next part of the act or finishes it. Taking damage will cause the Flickies to scatter, and while they are following you, they can be used to collect items Sonic could not normally reach, normally extra lives from springs. Within each act you can find Knuckles and Tails hidden. By bringing one of them at least 50 rings, they will take you to a special stage that once completed will unlock a Chaos Emerald. Collect all 7 to unlock the 8th and final zone along with the final boss. Compared to the original, for the most part this port is just a graphical update with a new soundtrack. The intro and closing sequence were changed, and the special stages were completely remade in 3D and now play similar to the stages in Sonic 2. Some minor changes are present. Loading screens are here due to it being a CD-based game now, and some of the story cutscenes are missing. Also, Chaos Emeralds can be collected twice per world instead of per act like in the Genesis version, meaning it will take longer to collect all the emeralds on the Saturn version, but you can retry in each act for the 2. Attempting to do any more will grant an extra life instead. Coming full circle, that same year, 1996, Sonic Team released their new IP, Nights into Dreams. Later that year, a sampler promotional title was released for the holidays titled Christmas Nights into Dreams. This title included the ability to unlock various different game modes, one of which had you play as Sonic. During this mode, the objective is the same as the main one with Knights, where you collect blue spheres to unlock jewels in order to clear the stage. However, Sonic does not fly, so instead he runs and jumps extra high around the same stage from a 3D perspective. This mode has 1 stage and 1 boss fight, against a redesign of Puffy from Nights into Dreams to look like Dr. Robotnik Eggman. Christmas Nights would later be bundled into future re-releases of Nights into Dreams, but this Sonic mode would not be included. A year later, the developers of the original Sonic 3D Blast Traveler's Tale would release a spin-off racing title called Sonic R. Controls may seem a little confusing at first. Does it control like a platformer or a racing game? It's both! You can move the character by either holding down the D-pad for a platformy sense of movement, or hold down the B for a traditional racing game feel. There are two types of turning methods. You've got a simple one by holding down the left or right button on the D-pad. Then there's the sharp turn. Hold down the L or R shoulder button while doing a normal turn for a much tighter twist around the corner. The rest of the moves are in classic Sonic style and play as they'd expect you would. Sonic can jump and spin dash, Tails can fly, Knuckles can glide, Amy has a car that hovers over water and can boost, and Dr. Robotnik fires missiles, although the missiles comes at a 10 ring cost. There are 5 levels total that all have branching paths. Unlocking stuff in the game isn't complicated. Beat all the main levels and the last level will unlock. Beating the last level will gain you another unlockable in the form of Dr. Robotnik. The rest of the characters, you have to collect items and do secret races to unlock them. Each level, minus the last, there are 5 Sonic coins that when collected while finishing in the top 3 spots will unlock a one-on-one race against new characters that will be playable when beat. Metal Sonic, Metal Knuckles, Tails Doll, and a Robot Robotnik. Lastly, there are Chaos Emeralds to be collected in the first 4 stages. 1 emerald on the first stage, and 2 on the other 3 each. These are hidden behind locked doors that require a certain amount of rings to unlock. Once you've gotten the emerald, you'll have to finish the race in first place, so you can keep that emerald. Once all 7 have been collected, Super Sonic will be unlocked. Fun fact, there's a very hard to find official soundtrack of the game, and even a vinyl record full of remixes that came out in 1999. However, just putting your copy of the game in a CD player will play both the lyrical and instrumental versions of the tracks. The final Sonic title to be released for the Sega Saturn is Sonic Jam. There are 2 main modes for this title. Sonic World, a 3D hub world with 8 missions that was made from the remains of the Sega Saturn build of Sonic Adventure before its development was moved to the Dreamcast. Completing all missions will unlock a big ring that will cause credits to play when touched. Inside the hub world, you can find buildings or museums. These contain a collection of artworks, promotional materials, soundtracks, game cutscenes, and even an animated movie that was never finished. The other main mode is the collection of the 4 main Sonic games released for the Sega Genesis, as well as the lock-on combinations from Sonic and Knuckles. Each one has CD audio and the occasional lag due to CD needing to load. However, unlike other collections, these are not ROMs, but ports. They were all programmed to run on Saturn hardware, which allowed the creators to add new modes. Mainly, the option to put the spin dash in Sonic 1 and the difficulty settings. There are 3 difficulties for each title. Classic mode plays the same as the original games, although turning the spin dash on in Sonic 1 will fix the spike bug even if played on original mode. Easy mode removes some acts, obstacles, adds platforms, changes items, and makes bosses take 3 hits to defeat instead of 8. Normal mode has the same amount of content as Classic, but it's a large attempt to rebalance the games. Several instant death drops have had platforms or springs added, including the pit in Sonic 2 that was later converted into the Hidden Palace Zone entrance in the mobile version. The final boss stages have rings now for Sonic 1 and 2, and special stages for 2 and 3 were made easier. Sonic 2's special stages have lower ring requirements, and Tails no longer gets knocked in front of you whenever taking hits. And Blue Sphere found in Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles no longer gradually increase speed. This was not the first or last time these titles have been released as a collection, but to this date, Sonic Jam is the only official release of these builds of the game. The Sega Saturn was a commercial failure outside of Japan, and a lot of people think it not having a proper Sonic title contributed to that. While that is most likely true, there were a lot of factors in the system's failure, and it is unlikely a proper Sonic title would have been enough to boost its sales to compete with PlayStation 1. But no one can know for sure. If you want my opinion on that, I have an old article covering it. If you want to know more about the cancelled Sonic movie, check out the Green Phoenix's Let's Talk on that, links in the description. And if you want to know about that 1998 anime movie, check out the co-writer's article on the topic. Until next time, y'all, my name is Sendu, the Ghost Ranger of EmeraldRangers.com. Signing off. See you in the next class.